Great. Thanks very much for joining us for the Psychology Foundation of Canada webinar on how to support our kids during the COVID-19 outbreak. We appreciate that there's so much that we're dealing with in these unprecedented and unpredictable times. And we appreciate you taking this time to join us for this important conversation with Dr. Robin Alter. My name is Mandy Hickman. I'm the Manager of Community Programs and Partnerships with the Psychology Foundation of Canada. And before I turn it over, I would like to let you know that we're taking questions. So we will answer your questions at the end of the webinar. I want to tell you a little bit about the Psychology Foundation of Canada. Our mission is nurturing resilience in children, and we've been doing this for over 40 years. The way that we do this is that we offer our evidence-based programs to supportive adults just like you who can help to nurture resilience and support kids across the lifespan. So we've got programs that start at birth, including Make the Connection. We move through Kids Have Stress 2, Stress Lessons, and we also have an adult program called Stress Strategies. It's really a supportive way of developing an action plan to help you to figure out different kinds of strategies for managing stress in your life. It's also applicable for older adults, or excuse me, older kids. So I'd encourage you to take a look at it. Today, we're going to be focusing more on Kids Have Stress 2 in our Stress Lessons programs. So Dr. Alter will reference our Kids Have Stress 2 program. These are programs where we train adults to deliver the stress management strategies and resources to children and youth, both in and out of the classroom. And I'm really excited to let you know that we're in the process of digitizing all of our training so that we can continue to deliver this while we're all practicing physical distancing. So please stay tuned for that and check out our website as we'll have more information on how to access our online training opportunities. And now I'd like to introduce you to our guest speaker today. I'm really thrilled to have Dr. Robin Alter join us. Dr. Robin Alter is a clinical psychologist in practice since 1979. She's consulted with the Children's Mental Health System in Toronto and New York region for over 40 years. In her consulting capacity, she consults the Indigenous community regarding fetal alcohol syndrome and conducts FAS assessments. Her current practice includes both the assessment and treatment of children, adolescents, and adults. She's been working in the US and in Canada for over 40 years. And in Canada, she's taught courses in psychology at York University while also running her own comprehensive private practice. Dr. Alter is the author of several books, including Anxiety and the Gift of Imagination and the Anxiety Workbook for Kids. She's been a trustee with the Psychology Foundation of Canada for the past 10 years in a variety of capacities. And I'm just thrilled that Dr. Alter can join us today, and I'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mandy. Thanks for that introduction. So some of you this is what you feel like these days, like your brain is exploding and you don't know what to do. If that's how you feel sometimes, believe me, you're not alone. This cartoon is from Robert Crumb, and a famous cartoonist from the 60s, but no one is in their comfort zone right now. I believe this cartoon is copyrighted, so we have to honor and respect that and not copy it. We are living through unprecedented times, and everyone is stressed right now. We're getting news every day that we're having trouble comprehending. We're trying to understand what's happening. We're trying to predict the future. We're having to make decisions about our basic needs. Where are we going to get our food from? How are we going to get our food? Did you ever think that toilet paper would be such a big deal? And then there's the kids. How are we going to take care of them? It's very likely there are times when you feel that you just can't cope. Probably some of your best coping strategies have been taken away from you. You can't go to the gym. You can't socialize with your friends. Well, here's one good thing. We all have a bit more time, so it's a perfect opportunity to discuss stress and how we deal with it. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. Next slide. So what is stress? Well, of course, one of the lessons in the Psychology Foundation with all of their programs around stress is that stress is normal. We really couldn't get through a day without some stress. And so we've been all dealing with stress and managing stress all along. Stress is a part of daily life. It's how we respond to all of the demands that are being placed upon us. But stress can be a problem when it overwhelms our ability to cope. So one of the ways that I understand stress is that it's like a teeter-totter. And on one side of the teeter-totter are all of the stressors, which are really piling up these days. And on the other side of the teeter-totter is our coping ability. And when we have a lot of stress, and we don't, our normal coping ability is not enough to manage it, then we euphemistically call it being stressed out or being out of balance. But what we need to do is increase our coping ability. And I hope to help you to do that today by adding some coping strategies to the ones that you're already using. Next slide. So this is a slide which just shows what the main components of stress management are. So the first thing to do is to identify the stressor. And there may be different stressors for you than for your children. You may be focused on the outside world, whereas your children are focused on what's happening within the walls of your home, within your bubble. Kids may be focused more on what's happening with their siblings. They may be focused more on the things they're missing, their outside activities, their friends. But identify the stressor, then look for the signs and symptoms of being stressed, and then decide what strategies you want to use to reduce that stress or bring it down to more manageable levels. Okay, next slide. So this slide basically shows how all of the components of ourselves are connected, right? With stress in the middle, but really any shifts in any of these areas can affect all of the different components. So, and these arrows are kind of two-way streets. So when we feel stressed, we experience it in our bodies. That affects your behavior. It affects how you think about things in your mind and your feelings. But if you want to make some changes, you can also make changes in any of these areas. So if you start with your behavior, for example, if you go out for a run or a walk, which for the most part we can still do as long as we practiced physical distance, that will reduce some of your stress. There are things you can do for your body, deep breathing and relaxation, which will reduce your stress. We can change how we think about things, which will reduce our stress. And all of these things will affect all of these other things. So they're all connected. Okay, next slide. So behavior is very much the language of children. In children's mental health, and those of you who are working in children's mental health, this was kind of a mantra for us for many, many years, and that's that behavior is the way that children communicate. And so you want to look beyond the behavior and try to understand what it is that they're trying to communicate. What is this behavior saying? And we can't always know. Often it's guessing. But what I found over the years is that when you guess, and if you don't get it right, you'll know that the child won't respond appropriately. But you try again, say something else. Is this what you're feeling? Is this what's going on? And eventually you get it right, and they kind of nod, and things kind of settle down. So we need to understand that this is how children communicate, and what might be the stressors that are behind some of those behaviors. In other words, not only what they're feeling, but what are the stressors that are causing those feelings. And I just realized, Mandy, if you're still there, that we were going to do a poll, which we didn't do. I see people are still joining us, so maybe we could stop now and do that poll, because we wanted to find out, since we've never done this before, who is on this webinar, who are the people who are here. So Mandy, would you like to do that now?
Yep, I've just launched the poll. So what we want to know is in what capacity are you joining us today? So we work with professionals, we work with parents, and so we're wondering, you know, who's here and in what capacity?
Okay, so should I keep going? Or should we
Great.
wait for maybe we'll give people a few minutes to
Yep,
answer those questions.
yep, but you can keep going.
Pardon?
You can keep on going if you'd like.
Okay. Okay, so what we're talking about here is it's not the stress so much that affects us, it's how we perceive it. And how we perceive it affects how we react to it. So one simple example of this would be, you know, one child gets an invitation to a birthday party, and to one child, that's a happy event. They're looking forward to it. They think it's going to be fun. Another child, you know, sees that they don't think they're going to be treated well. They think they're going to get bullied. They think they're going to be left out. And they start stressing about how negative that experience is going to be. So, you know, what we shouldn't make assumptions about things, because how, you know, what our perceptions are very much color our reactions. And
Robin,
the
I'll
other
just
thing.
take a second and just share the results of the poll. It looks
Okay.
like we've got 53% of our participants today. We're looking at 316 participants are with us today, and
Wow.
53% are professionals that work with children, and 6% are parents, and 41% are both.
Uh-huh.
It's good to know who's here with us today.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. So just moving on here, the other thing that will affect children's perception of their stressors is their own perception of their ability to deal with things. So if they have, you know, some self-confidence that, you know, even though there might be challenges at the birthday party, there are also some good things, then their attitude towards the event will be different. And we can have an impact on that, you know, like we can remind them of their successes, and, you know, the last time they thought they didn't want to go to something, but in fact, once they got there, they changed, you know, they were able to overcome the difficulties. So, you know, we often remember those things a little better than the children do. Okay, next slide. Okay, so I mean, this is, we're going to be talking about the physiology of stress. I know this is a repetition or some review for some people, but there may be some parts of it that you haven't heard before, so bear with me. The brain, you know, the stress is a natural and physiological response. That our stress response is something that is very hard to control because it's so hardwired in our brain. When you feel threat in any way, whether it's a physical danger or a psychological danger, your body reacts to protect you. And it reacts in ways that, you know, some of which are not that helpful, given that this whole response was, you know, is the same response that we've had since we were cavemen, when our threats and the dangers were quite different than they are today. Although in some ways, you know, we are now facing some real physical dangers. So the main response is called fight, flight, or freeze, and that's the one that's often spoken about. And the way the physiology works is that you see a threat, a threat is perceived, and then the brain sends messages, chemical messages, to other parts of our body. The adrenal gland, which activates our emotions, the stress hormones, which are cortisol and adrenaline, and what they do is they send messages to the body so that some systems are activated and some systems are deactivated. So extra blood, for example, gets sent to the brain so that you can think more quickly and more sharply and react to the situation. Some blood gets sent to your body, to your muscles, so that if you have to run, you can run faster. Some messages are sent to our systems to shut them down. So your body says, well, we're in a dangerous situation now. We're not going to have time to eat, so let's shut down the digestive system. And, so you may see a loss of appetite, those kinds of things. So the three main components to this response are fight. If you have to fight back, if somebody's actually attacking you, you'd want to maybe fight if you think you might be able to defend yourself. In this situation, you may find that your children are fighting more with each other, fighting more with you. You may feel the need to want to fight, something like that. Flight is running away. And, in some sense, we're all in the flight response. We're actually running away from the virus. We're trying to protect ourselves. We're trying to find a safe place. We're making a safe place, and we're fleeing from the danger. And also freezing. We're told that we should stay put. And that's a very much a component of freezing. Stay in your house and don't go anywhere, stay home. I also wanted to mention this one, the tend and befriend response. It's not as frequently mentioned, but it is also, the research shows that some people, instead of flighting, and freezing when they are stressed, they do something called tend and befriend. And this is what we're all doing right now when we're calling our friends, we're calling our family, we're touching base with everybody that we know, making sure that they're okay. The phone lines are, I don't know if you've experienced it, but I've found that they're in overload and they're not always working. Although if you try a few times, you can get them to work. But we're all communicating a lot more than we were before. Next slide. Okay, I just wanted to mention resilience and to define it, because it's such a key component of stress, and particularly with children, but also with ourselves. So what is resilience? Resilience is the ability to cope well when things get rough, under adversity, and to bounce back. So remember, the stress response is something that is automatic. It's going to happen. We're hardwired to have a stress response, but being resilient means the ability to, once we realize we've been stressed and maybe, our response was a little bit of an overreaction, we need to bring ourselves down and come back to neutral. So if, we can identify if there's something to do to keep ourselves safe, but once we've done that, then we need to bring ourselves back to neutral, back to some level of normalcy. And so that's what resilience is bouncing back, coming back to our normal state. And our attitude and mindset play a very critical role in this. Whether we feel we can do it, what's our mindset? Do we just feel overwhelmed by it and can't do it? Or do we say, I can do this. I can calm myself down. I can bring myself back. But for children who are, they haven't been doing these kinds of, they're much less practiced in all of this than we are, right? They're young, they're, they've been practicing these skills or doing these skills or learning how to be little human beings for far fewer years than we. So they very much need an adult, and a consistent, caring adult can make all the difference in a child's ability to cope with stress. And sometimes, like we have strategies to help them, but sometimes it's just being there, just our presence, just standing, just holding, just giving a reassuring kind of touch can help them to calm down. Self-regulation, those of you who are professionals certainly know about this. It's the ability to stay calm, to be alert, to manage your emotions, such as upsets and tantrums. So it's very similar to resilience, and they kind of go hand in hand, and there's a lot of overlap between these terms, so don't get don't get too wigged out about that. But stress management is very much a key to self-regulation in adults and in children. Okay, the next slide is the strategies found within the Kids Have Stress 2 program. And it's just a nice colored slide. You know, you could make something like this of your own. Let's go on to the next slide, Mandy. Okay, so now we get into the meat of everything. The Psychology Foundation has their toolbox activities, and there are many, many activities, and we have just a few of them here, but this is the website. All of this is downloadable and printable, so please visit the website and you know, be able to fill in some of the gaps. But just to go over these, number one, it's important to remember, you know, to pay attention to your child and to know what are the things that upset or stress your child. You know your child best, and you know, you can take, you know, keep track of the things that upset them and stress them, and try to be proactive, so that you can get ahead of the game. So if there are certain things that are stressful, you know, try to anticipate that they're going to come up again. Don't just hope for the best, that they're not going to happen. They probably will, and try to put things in place that will either prevent or help them to calm down once things have happened. There are quick ways to relax and to breathe. The important thing here, we know relaxation strategies, but for young children, they need things to be very concrete. So for example, one of the toolbox activities in the Kids Have Stress 2 program is called Push Clouds Away. So I thought we could do that now, just to loosen up and you know, take a breather. So I want everybody to stand up. I don't know if you can see me. Actually, if I stand up, you can't see me, so I'm not going to stand up. But stand up, hold your hands up, stretch as high as you can, and imagine that there's a cloud right up there, right on top of you. And now it could be a dark cloud, it could be a big cloud, whatever kind of cloud you want, but just kind of push that cloud away. Push it with your right hand, push it with your left hand. Get that cloud to go away. Push it away, up, up, up. And the kids love this. And, you know, it's a way to kind of loosen your shoulders and your neck. And I was noticing the other day that I went out for a walk, and I just felt so much tension in my shoulders and my neck. That's where I've been feeling it and holding it a lot these days. So it really helps to do these kinds of exercises. Some of the other ones that the Kids Have Stress 2 talk about is go tight and go loose. Get your whole body tight and then loose, tight and loose. Put your worries in a bubble, and then blow that bubble away. Put your worries in a balloon. Lots of concrete strategies that allow your body to get into it and get you into a more relaxed state. Okay, so I hope everybody's feeling a little better. Problem solving is a key strategy for all of us. Teaching children the steps. First of all, that problems are meant to be solved. Problems have solutions. The problem solving technique is identify the problem, you know, with a positive attitude. Oh, that's a problem. Let's see if we can solve it. What are the possible ways that we can solve it? And write down all the possible solutions. And you can even get, you know, a little bit funny here. And then decide which one you want to try, which you want to implement, do it, see if it worked. If it didn't work, try something else. So the next strategy is talking nicely to myself. You know, for some reason, we often, our inner voices are always like little bullies, and even using nasty tones, you know. And, you know, one of the things that I say to kids often is, you know, when they tell me the things they're saying to themselves, I will say, you know, would you ever say that to somebody else? And they typically say no. And I say, well, that's right, because it's not nice. So why do you think it's okay to say that to yourself? You know, don't you deserve to be as nice, you know, to hear as nice things as you say to other people? So, you know, you can really develop that. And fun and easy ways to get moving. We're all, you know, kids especially need to be active, you know, every day. And, you know, so sometimes you need to find those ways inside, and, you know, we can still go outside as long as we keep our physical distance. Okay. I do want to speak more specifically about how to talk to children and the things that are appropriate for different age groups. So for this is preschool and kindergarten children. Remember, you are the antidote. Your presence is key. You are the most important, the parents are the most important people in young children's lives. And, you know, what you do is the most important thing. Young children are not focused on the outside world at all, really. They're focused primarily on the immediate family and possibly their daycare world. They don't really think about, you know, Canada or Ontario or, you know, what's the larger world. So the things that are important to them are the immediate things, you know, how their siblings are treating them, whether or not they're able to do their activities, you know, whether, you know, they're getting the attention that they want from parents. Stay calm, smile, laugh, play games with them. Not only will it help them, but it will also help you. It's important that we don't spend all our time worrying, and the time that we spend with our kids is a break from all of that for ourselves. I do think, and this is my personal point of view, that we should protect young children from the news. They can't understand it. It's too complicated. Oftentimes these TV stations have a very strong tone. You know, the emotional tone is very excited and scary. And kids, even more than adults, but adults too, but kids really respond to the emotional tone of our voices and the voices on TV. You know, I think it's also important to say that if you're watching the news, try to pay attention to your tone of voice and what your faces are saying, because they may not be focusing on the news, but they're focusing on you. Okay, and take a look at all the toolbox activities in the Psychology Foundation. Okay, this is the next slide. This is a strategy of kids have stress too. It's called Stop, Look, and Listen. And this is for the adult to do. And it's basically stop, take a moment when you're both relaxed and you can be together without interruption, and really take a look at your child. Just do you know, a full body scan. Look at their face. What do you notice? Is their jaw tight? Are they smiling? Are they relaxed? Are they playing? Just what's your assessment of what's going on with them? And listen, you know, listen to what they're saying. You know, listen without speaking. You know, give them your full attention, just for a few minutes, and you know, make an assessment. Are they okay, or do they need something from me? And, you know, we believe that you should do this with your kids in normal circumstances, but now I would say it's more important than ever. Okay, next slide. Moving on to elementary age children. Routine and structure can be helpful at all ages. I think everybody does better with routine and structure, or for the most part. I mean, I guess there's some people not, but for the most part, we all feel a bit better when we have some routine and structure to our lives. So create a routine and try to stick to it. So this is a time we can just build in the things that you want to do, the things that are important. You know, for elementary age children, it's helpful to put it in some concrete form. So write it out, have it on a big board, have it on a calendar. For younger children, you might want to put pictures so they can see what the activities are, but the words could be there too, so they can start learning the words. But you know, knowing that there's a routine and a structure to the day improves our mood and helps us feel more secure. The next point is kids need to be busy, and it's not just that they're bored or they're lazy, but activity is really how they think. Children don't sit and think, they do. And so if you don't give them things to do, then they're going to find things to do, and they may not be the things that you want them to do or that you're happy with them. You're going to have to make a decision about video games because at this point in time, video games might be better than the alternatives. It might be better than having them fighting with their siblings. It might be better than having them trashing their room. You still want to have some limits, but this may be a time when they're going to be playing more video games than you really want them to, and it might be an opportunity to just be a little bit more flexible about those rules. If you do decide that, you know, some children really want information and won't be protected from the news. They want to know. And so, you know, this is a time when you're gonna have to try to figure out what they need to know, how you're gonna help them to, you know, how you need to decide what aspect of the news they should watch, or you know, how much they can handle. And this is where your own judgment about your kids comes in, because some kids probably won't be able to handle it at all, and some kids really need to know. But I would suggest that if you do allow them to watch some of the news, that you watch it with them, so that you know what they're seeing, and that you can soften it a bit for them. You can add some positivity. You know, some kids will have lots of questions, and you may not have all the answers, but you know, you can eventually get more answers, or say to them that, you know, we really don't know this yet, but we're working on it, and the people in charge are working on it. You know, there's going to be a lot of words and information in newscasts that children of elementary age, school age, will not understand, and will need to be translated for them or explained to them. You know, even very young, you know, I was thinking about how to explain to very young children what is a virus and how does it get transmitted, how is it contagious. So one way to explain that in very concrete images and words is, it's kind of like your crayons or your paints. When they get all over your hands and then you touch something, it gets on those things too. But some crayons and some markers and are washable. So we can wash them out with soap and water, and the virus is like that. When we wash our hands, it's like we're taking away the paints and the crayons from our hands and from our clothes. Okay, next. This is another strategy from the toolbox, and it's a concrete image of how to communicate with children about where they're at with their stress level. You know, it uses the traffic light as the concrete symbol, which most children are very familiar with. So Red is alert, you're stressed, you're not in control of yourself, you're feeling yucky. Yellow is you're dealing with it, you're using some tools and trying to make some change. And green is go, you feel energized, relaxed, in control, ready to go. So, this is once you teach this to children, it's very simple. It's a way to communicate. Where are you? Are you at a red or are you at a yellow? Or are you at a green? And if you're at a yellow or if you're at a red, what are we going to do about it? If you're at a yellow and you're actually working on it, how is it working? And if green, there's nothing to do but go back to your activity. Okay, next slide. Oh, we did this one already. We did the cloud push. I forgot we had this slide. Sorry about that. Another deep breathing exercise, which I really like, is the 4-7-8, which I learned from Dr. Andrew Weil. But it really, I think it's one of the best. And it's basically very, very simple. You breathe in for a count of 4. You hold it for 7 and you breathe out for 8. And so once you've done this, and you do it 3 times, you breathe in for a count of 4, you hold it for 7, and you breathe out for 8. And once you've done that 3 times, the next breath will be very long and deep because you have been breathing in for only 4, but holding it for 7 and out for 8. So for these breaths, you're not taking any oxygen. For 15 breaths, for 15 counts, you're not getting any oxygen. You're only getting oxygen for 4. So by the end of 3 of these segments, you're now in need of oxygen. So the next breath is very long and deep. And when we breathe long and deep, we're in a relaxed mode. That's how you get relaxation into your body. And when you're breathing in that relaxed mode, you really can't be anxious and stressed. So it's very, very effective. And also the other thing to remember, some kids may be very worried about whether or not they have COVID. If they have a runny nose, or they may be thinking about worst case scenarios and worrying about COVID. But if you can do this breathing exercise, if you can hold it for 7, then they're actually saying now you should hold your breath for 10. And if you can do that, then you have the lung capacity and it's unlikely that you have COVID. So it's a little concrete test that you can do. Okay, sleep. I've recently been doing a lot of research about, they were looking at the research about this, and there's a lovely book called Why Do We Sleep? It's on the New York Times bestseller list. And the research in the last 10 years is overwhelming about what important stuff happens when we sleep. So we really do need sufficient sleep. It actually strengthens our immune system. All kinds of good things happen when we sleep. Our memories get consolidated. It's very good for memory. Your whole brain gets kind of reorganized during sleep. Like I said, your immune system gets strengthened. It heals. A lot of healing occurs at night. If we do have more time and there's an opportunity to take more naps, I think it would be highly desirable. Okay. Okay, so we did have one question. A lot of you wrote in questions, and a lot of them were kind of general, so I hope that the talk is answering those questions. But we did have one from Margarita, and she asked about anxious kids and how do we help them. And so thank you for that question, Margarita. And I have written 2 books. Anxiety and the Gift of Imagination, and the Anxiety Workbook for Kids. And, basically the message in these books is that when we get anxious, and a lot of anxious kids have very vivid imaginations, and anxiety can create vivid images of worst case scenarios. And once those images are in our minds, it's the images in our minds that trigger our emotions, not reality. So so if we have these worst case scenarios in our minds, then we're going to react to them. And but in fact, reality is reality, and we need to help our children and ourselves stick with the facts, not let our imaginations run away from us. And we don't know what the future is, and because of that, it could be better than we think. Let's just stick with what we can control, what's inside of our bubble. And it really doesn't help to imagine what might happen and then react to that as if it's really happening, because it's not. The only thing that's really happening is what's happening right within our bubble at this point in time. Okay, and anxious kids, of course, are going to be more prone to that, but they can learn how to kind of get control and kind of steer their imaginations into more positive, images. The mind wants to be busy, so if it doesn't have something positive to be busy about, it's going to go towards these more negative images. Okay. The next slide is about teenagers. Teenagers, may be going through what we used to call the rebellious phase. But I did want to mention the fact that the last 10 years or so, we've really been learning a lot about how teenage brains are different than adult brains. And you'll see from the picture below how, the different colors means different kind of brain matter. And a 5-year-old is quite different from a 20-year-old. But even the teen has a lot more of that yellow in there. And even the 20-year-old doesn't have solid blue. So there's still development that's going on there. What this means is that for teenagers, their prefrontal lobe and their frontal lobe is not fully developed. And that's the part of the brain that is your judgment. It's the ability to say no. It's the ability to hold back and not be so impulsive. So we don't want to give them free rein here to put themselves at risk. If they're saying they have to go outside and that they're stuck inside, then this is the time to say, but you're safe inside and you're not safe outside. So you may have to exert some more of your authority. I'm looking at the time, Mandy, and I'm wondering if we need to skip over some of these.
Yeah, sounds good. We will be sharing this presentation with all the participants afterwards. We talked about communication helpers.
Yeah. I'll just mention scaling because it's a good way to communicate when people don't have all the word, young kids don't have a lot of words or big vocabulary. If you want to find out how they're doing, put it on a 10-point scale. 10 is great, 1 is bad, or vice versa. Kids love this because it's a real clear way to communicate, and then you can know whether or not they're, yesterday is different than today, either positive or negative. What else can you do? Be a good role model. Use these strategies for yourself. We do have programs for adults if you're worried about your own stress level. Encourage friendships. That tend and befriend is a way that people deal with stress. And I think we're all learning that our relationships are key in keeping us sane these days. And the same is true for kids. So please encourage them and help them and support them to stay connected to their friends and extended family through online platforms, through phone, through Zoom, through FaceTime. All of that is working for us these days. I think I'm going to skip that one. remember, we're going through something unprecedented and important, and there are many teachable moments here that we hope can pass on to our kids. We're all learning about trust, who we can trust, how do we decide who we're going to trust, why it's important to trust authorities at this point, the medical authorities, the government, the people who are working hard to keep ourselves safe. I know these are issues for many teenagers and young children. Who can they trust? Who should they trust? The importance of science. Where would we be now without science to teach us how to keep ourselves safe and how this virus is behaving and how it's transmitting? We're finding out what's important. What are our values? Sometimes we don't learn what's important to us until we've lost it. So let's hold on to that. There are many stress busters that, are immediate stress busters like laughter, music, activity, be in nature. Even there's enormous amounts of research that shows even being near a plant reduces our stress. But we have wonderful trees, we can still go outside, sleep, as I mentioned before. We're getting near the end. I did want to mention Viktor Frankl's message because Viktor Frankl is a very famous psychologist. He was a survivor of the Holocaust. He was actually in the concentration camps. And one of the messages that he learned through all of that was that, those people who held on to a sense of normalcy, even in abnormal circumstances, were the ones who, after it was all over and were lucky enough to survive, were able to pick up their lives where they left off. So as much as we can, we need to hold on to normalcy within our bubbles. And I do want to leave you with this message that a lot of these strategies that we've talked about are some that you've had some experience with, but now you're going to be using them more often. Some of them may be new and you want to try them. Don't get down on yourself when things aren't working out. Just persevere, try them again. Sometimes it takes a few times. Be kind to others, be kind to yourself. I know that you're all doing the best that you can. And I think you're all doing probably better than you think you are. You know your kids better than anybody, and you have a good sense of what will work. So I wanted to, since we started with Robert Crumb, I wanted to end with Robert Crumb, who gave us a very powerful message in the 60s, which was keep on trucking. And hopefully the trucks will keep on trucking and keep our food supply going. But more importantly, put your best foot forward, your big foot here, and keep on trucking. Okay. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Robin Alter, for sharing all this information. So we're going to move to our questions now. So thank you very much. I noticed that we've got a number of questions in our Q&A. So I'm going to pull that up, and I'm just going to start from the top. Karen asks, how much information is appropriate to give children 3 to 5 years of age?
Well, it depends really on their language skills, on their ability to absorb the information. I mean, I would start with, not giving them information, but asking them what they know. Ask them what they have questions about. Try to stay child-centered. And, if they have specific questions, you can try to answer them simply, but don't assume that you know what they really need to know, and don't try to do it all at once. Don't try to overload them with a lot of information. I have, done interviews with kids that age, and often, a good technique is to ask them to draw what they think is going on, or, what, how they're feeling. they may just have general questions like, why can't I see my friends, or why can't I go outside? And, then you have to give them some, you can use perhaps what I talked about before, that there's an illness out there. There's kind of germs going out there that everybody is trying to not spread. And you can use that example of the crayons and how they get on, or paint gets on other materials, and how we don't want to get it on us because it kind of sticks on us. So something like that.
Great. Okay.
Okay.
Got another question from Chris, who asks, our biggest challenge surrounds our 13-year-old and keeping a strong sleep routine and pattern. What's the best argument? He's had good days, but bad others.
So the child, your 13-year-old, just doesn't want to sleep?
That's what it sounds like.
Resisting sleep, yeah. Right. The best argument. Well, without knowing your child, I mean, there are probably, you could point to all the things that might be better in their lives if they slept a little bit more. Their mood, their sense of enjoyment, their sense of fun, things that they care about. Try to connect having a little bit more sleep with the things that they want and like as important, right? So, if they tend to be grumpy, if they're not getting along with other people, with siblings or their friends, all those things can be related to not enough sleep. It really affects our ability to think and to process and to enjoy life. So generally, people who don't get enough sleep are deficient in those areas. But, some kids don't seem to need a lot of sleep, and so none of those arguments will hold. And I'm not sure what to do in that instance.
Mm-hmm. I guess it's hard to be able to answer case-specific questions. So
yeah.
We'll try to keep it a bit more broad. We've got a question here wondering about how to support. The question is wondering why my children struggle to focus on simple tasks, or they get easily frustrated by little things, or have emotional outbursts frequently for no reason. So the question is, I wonder why this is happening.
Well, what seems simple to you may not be simple to them. I mean, the fact that they're having emotional outbursts means that they're feeling frustrated. And so you might want to even break down those tasks into smaller chunks. Perhaps you might be giving them too much verbal instruction and they don't understand all the words. Therefore, when they sit down to do it, they just say, I can't do it, because they didn't understand all the instructions. You might want to do more modeling for them, to show them, to demonstrate. One of the things that I find that helps kids with frustration is when you say to them, I'm just going to be here with you. I'm going to support you, but you do it. So I'll just watch you, like be a silent supporter rather than a verbal supporter. I think a lot of us tend to talk too much to kids, use too much words and overload them with that. And then they're trying to understand our language and what we're saying, and then they can't focus on what they're doing. But, the other thing to remember is that, when we're at the beginning of a learning curve, when we're just learning something new, it's very difficult. Things are hard at the beginning. We're all at the beginning of a learning curve today with this COVID stuff. We are novices at this. We're learning, and so that's one of the reasons why it's so stressful. And but kids are at the bottom of the learning curve much of the time. They're learning so many things. So it does help for us to say, yeah, it's hard. Yeah, learning new things is hard. I get it. We won't give up. You'll keep trying, and eventually you'll get it, but just being empathic and letting them know that you understand how difficult it is to try those new things and to be learning those things really does help the brain. We now know that when people say things like that, the brain actually changes. There you know, different things happen in our brain when somebody identifies what we're experiencing, what we're feeling. So just labeling that feeling of saying, yeah, I can see you're frustrated. This is hard. It doesn't, you know, it takes a while to learn how to do this. You know, we don't get it all at the beginning.
Yeah. Okay, we've got another question here about teenagers. So I work with many teenagers who don't seem to take the virus very seriously. They don't understand the risks. Dr. Alter, do you have any strategies for talking to teenagers about COVID and ensuring they understand how this could affect themselves and others around them?
Well, you know, like I said in the presentation, I think it's more important that they behave properly than if they understand why they're behaving properly. So I think this is a time when parents need to exert their authority and say, you know, you're in, whether you like it or not. Like if your child was, you know, needed to go to the hospital, like they were bleeding, you wouldn't, and they didn't want to go, you would get them there. You'd pack them in the car, you wouldn't listen to all their protests, and you get them there. You know, like this is one of those times, like they may not have the best judgment. They may not come to the right conclusion. And this is important enough that they need to stay home, not only for themselves, but for other people. You know, if they go out, they may be spreading it, and we really need to just keep them in. You know, if you have to stay in, they have to stay in. And it's not comfortable for any of us. We're all making the best of it, but it's for their own good. It's for the good of the public. It's for all of us. So, you know, you can talk to them till you're blue in the face. Try to convince them, let them understand, you know, why this is happening and why it's important. But if that doesn't work, you just have to be the authority and, you know, stand in front of the door and not let them. And, you know, and teenagers will be very good at promising, I promise I won't do this, I promise, but you have no way of knowing exactly what they're going to do when they get out there. You have no way of following up and making sure that they're following the rules.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got one more question, and we appreciate all the questions that you sent in and want to respect people's time. So we'll just get to one more live, but we'll be able to follow up following the webinar with some answers for some other questions. But finally, Monique has asked how to help her daughter cope with schools being closed and missing playing with her friends.
Well, I think, do we know how old that child is?
Don't know how old.
Okay. I mean, I think, as we said before, that people are finding ways of connecting so that they don't have to miss their friends. And Zoom is like we're using now is very effective. I'm using it with my 4-year-old grandson, and he's getting quite efficient at it. We're doing story time with him. But teenagers will love this as a way of connecting, I think. So if you have a computer, you can have Zoom. People need routines, people need activity. We need to find ways of filling our days and being productive. And as Viktor Frankl said, you know, hold on to normalcy. Find out what's important to us and find a way to do it, to maintain it, you know. You know, there are lots of things we can be doing inside. We don't need to be sitting around being bored or just watching television all day. So, you know, it's a time to do a soul searching, really, and figure out what is important to me and what do I want to maintain in my life at this point.
Great. Okay, well, thank you so much, Dr. Alter. On behalf of Psychology Foundation and our entire community, I want to thank you for providing us with your insights today. And you know, we're all trying to figure out how to go forward in this new normal. So appreciate you providing us with this time. And I imagine that we'll have more questions, and I expect that we'll continue this conversation. This is just not the end. So thank you, everyone.
Mandy. Thanks for setting this up, and for Pam, to our IT person. I think it all worked. Good
Great.
for us.
Thank you. And just a final word, I did want to just mention that at the Psychology Foundation of Canada, we are a charity, and we've also been hit by this pandemic. And if it's within your means, if you're able to offer a small donation, we would always appreciate that to continue to do this kind of work. It's extremely important at all times, but especially at this times that we're encouraging resilience and supporting kids dealing with stress. So thank you very much, and we hope that you'll tune in for future webinars. Take care.
Bye. Bye now. Be safe.
Bye.